Now let's turn the spotlight to another story, an interesting story. South Korea has lifted an import ban on adult-sized sex dolls. The decision coming after years of debate over whether the government was interfering in people's private lives. Until now, officials blocked the import of such dolls under a law that restricts goods that are seen as harming South Korea's traditions and public morals, with customs having confiscated some 1,000 dolls in the last 4 years. It's a product that has had a growing demand in East Asia in recent years, particularly in Japan. Now let's bring in Tal Leshev, an expert on East Asia. Thank you for joining us. So, how popular are these dolls in South Korea, and why now the change?
Well, it's hard to say how popular they are since they were banned so far. So we cannot know what is the demand. Maybe now we will be able to follow it and see. What we can say is that we have a very big quantity of confiscated dolls stocked in the customs of Korea. But anyhow, we are witnessing a change in values, in changing culture, a very significant one.
Right, and I mean, South Korea, they also produce such dolls, no? I mean, beforehand, wasn't the law against importing, but if you bought them locally, it was still possible to have them? What was the deal there with the law before this change?
The law is not very clear about it. There was not a very clear law that prohibits it. It was more a policy of the customs. And once there was a call to reconsider it, they simply ran out of answers. From one hand, we saw that they blocked the import of life-size sex dolls. Unlike a child-size sex dolls, those are two different categories. Under law that restricts goods that are seen as harming South Korea's tradition and public morale. So it is a question of a conservative attitude. It's a question of the face of the nation, not something which is very specific according to this or that law. But there was a petition signed by quite some hundreds of thousands of Koreans against the import of these dolls. And the reason that they gave is that it could lead to an increase in sex crimes. So different people and different organizations in Korea are opposing it for different reasons. And I guess the real issue here is the conservative attitude of Korea, and maybe not only Korea. We see things of that kind in Taiwan, in Thailand also, and other countries in East Asia.
Right, that's interesting. I mean, how do you compare this subject to other countries? I mean, Japan is the country that's sort of more known for having a sex doll market. So how do you compare, for instance, Korea to Japan and how they deal with this issue?
They have something very interesting. From one hand, the size of the porn industry is quite significant. And on the other hand, maybe not the other hand, just a second, we see a decline in both countries in marital life. So there is a increasing bigger and bigger number of people not getting married, and they look for their comfort, their compensation in pornography or in sex dolls. And it is a phenomenon which is very unique to that area in the world. People being too shy, less confident of themselves, to go out, to have dates, to look for somebody from the sex that attracts them in order to build a couple together. And they're staying at home. I'm talking about millions, no less than that. Millions of people in Japan and Korea, both of them the same, staying at home, living with their sex doll or with their software that creates the image of their dreams and their desires. We are facing here a very severe issue that affects also the birth rate of those two countries. Yeah. So this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a very healthy phenomena from that perspective. Tal Reshef, East Asia expert, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.